turn that down before the echo even can hit it. See, I'm a pro at this. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Valley News Now this afternoon. We're continuing our partnership with the Bank of North Dakota for, where I've named this Financial Literacy Friday. So if you don't like the name, don't blame our guests from the Bank of North Dakota, blame me. Before we get started in this, we do have a disclaimer to read just as this conversation is going to continue here about financial literacy and the big topic for today being retirement. Retirement plans are subject to eligibility and restrictions, including but not limited to restrictions on contributions and distributions, and are subject to change. Among other things, you should consider current guidance published by the IRS on different retirement plans and the details of your employer's retirement plan before making an investment decision. Our content is for informational purposes only and is not intended as legal, tax, or financial advice. Now that we have all that fun stuff out of the way, joining me is Rachel from the Bank of North Dakota. Rachel, how'd I do with that?
That was great.
Amazing.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for making some time for us this week as we continue to kind of explore financial literacy, and a big topic that a lot of people have in the forefront of their brains is their retirement. This is something that I really just started paying attention to. Like, I have a kid now, and so it's kind of into perspective of, someday I'd at least like to have something. Like before, when I was just me, fighting for survival, didn't really care that much, but now I care. And so we're going to go ahead and dive into this here. It says right at the top, only 61% of North Dakotans have a retirement plan through their employer. That's according to the 2024 FINRA, or do you guys say FINRA? FINRA. I was going to say it, but I didn't want to be wrong. Their Investor Education Foundation report. Why should we be concerned about that 61% number?
Yeah, because I think a lot of times people just maybe assume, hey, I've got something through my employer. It's something you commonly hear. But it really is important to check, like, do you actually have, some sort of match or some sort of plan through your employer? Because if not, that means that you might have to do a little bit of extra planning on your own to, really kind of get your path, your retirement plan set moving forward. Especially when you might not be having any sort of, contributions or match coming in from an employer, then it really just means that you've got to be prepared to do a little extra planning to be prepared for when you retire. Is
that something that comes up often, people thinking that they're just assuming that they have it through their employer?
Yeah, sometimes I do talk to people, it's, you're starting a new job and you get that benefits package slid across the desk, and sometimes it's, oh, I'll deal with that later. I'm too busy thinking about this new job right now, and so they never actually circle back around and look through the details to see what exactly they might be provided.
Gotcha. Now, last week we explored the Smart With My Money website, so if you missed that, you can find that on our website right now, or just go to their website, Bank of North Dakota. How can that Smart With My Money website help with any retirement planning questions people may have?
Yeah, it's actually a really great tool. Like we kind of said, the disclaimer, we're not the experts. We're not here for the legal side or the actual financial planning, but the Smart With My Money website is a really, really great tool just kind of for some general retirement knowledge. So if you're kind of wondering, maybe what are my choices, what are different types of retirement plans, lots of really great info out there for you. There's a full course that you can take all about retirement planning and kind of getting started with some of those basics. That's a good one that I always recommend to start out with.
There you go.
Also videos, articles, lots of good content for you.
Everything for any kind of style of learner you may be there.
Exactly.
I know the videos would help me a lot in that kind of situation.
Yes.
Now, one thing, I have heard it ad nauseum for basically my entire life, especially from, I'm going to go ahead and call her out, my mom. Often hear it's never too early to start saving for retirement. Why is starting, say, in your 20s such a game changer financially?
Yeah, absolutely. We do hear oftentimes people are kind of like, hey, I don't need to start thinking about this until I'm maybe in my 30s, 40s.
Guilty.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, really, the earlier that you can start, the better for you, because that time is such a huge asset for you. If you can invest even just a little bit in your 20s, that'll start compounding on itself, start earning more, earning interest for you, and really setting you up better in the long run. It's kind of been found that if you're investing just a little bit in your 20s, by the time you retire, you're most likely going to have more than if you would have started investing or planning for larger amounts in your 30s or 40s. So really that time is just the key for you. That's going to be in your favor.
It probably helps a little bit to kind of, save it up a little bit over time as opposed to trying to get the big chunks in there as you get older. Now, how do I know how much I should plan for to be financially comfortable in retirement? How much, how do I know how much to start storing away there?
Right, yeah. I think we all wish that there was some magic number that we could just tell you.
I do. That's why I was hoping you would tell me.
Unfortunately, that's not the case.
Ah.
It's really going to kind of boil down to thinking about what is your lifestyle like and what do you want your lifestyle to be like after you retire. So for a lot of people, they want to maintain, you know, about the same sort of lifestyle. For some people, it's they know they're retiring and they're at a place now where they may be willing to downsize a little bit, cut back. So in that case, they wouldn't need to plan for quite as much. Some people say, you know what, I've worked hard all my life, now I'm retired, I want to live it up and I want to go travel and do all of these things. And so someone like that might need to be planning for a little bit more for their retirement funding. So that first step is really just kind of figuring out, what do you want your lifestyle to look like? And you can kind of go from there with figuring it out. One kind of rule of thumb, I guess, that's tossed around a lot is saving 12 times your pre-retirement income.
Okay.
So kind of wherever you're at when you're retiring, you want to make sure that you've got about 12 times that saved.
Gotcha. That's a good rule of thumb there. And like you said, nothing's going to be, there's not one number to give to everybody.
Right.
So that's a good thing to factor in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can you explain why taking advantage of an employer match, I see free money labeled here. Why is it considered free money?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, that's going to really depend on kind of what your employer is offering you. But a lot of employers will do matches for you. So if you are putting something in to their retirement plan that's being offered through the employer, your employer oftentimes will match that for you. So it's essentially almost like getting free money added to that retirement account that's then, building on that time, earning free interest for you, and really just kind of setting you up for even more in that retirement account once you get to that point. So that's kind of where I always recommend, if you're able to and in a financial place to do so, I always recommend trying to max out that match that might be available to you.
Who doesn't love free money?
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Some people still believe that they can rely solely on Social Security and Medicare and retirement. These programs that you can get as you get to that retirement age. Why is that risky in kind of the financial climate that we have right now?
For sure. Yeah, that's unfortunately kind of a common thing that I hear is people just think, hey, I don't really need to save for retirement because I'm going to have these governmental programs kind of helping me out. Unfortunately, in today's world, rising costs, inflation, the majority of people are finding that some of those programs that might be available aren't covering anywhere close to their monthly expenses. So you really don't want to put yourself in a position where you're maybe relying on that and then actually get to that place in retirement and are now realizing that, hey, you can't afford the lifestyle that you thought that you were going to be able to.
Especially if, like me, my whole plan is that's once I retire, that's when the traveling is going to start, things like that. And so you don't want to necessarily have to rely on something and it not be especially if you're trying to travel or see things that you haven't been able to see when in this darn 9-to-5 life. Now, another thing in the notes here are catch-up contributions, not KET, not ketchup like you put on fries, but catch-up contributions. What are those and how can they help people in their 50s or older who feel behind with their retirement savings?
Yeah, so we already kind of said, the earlier you can start saving, the better for you. But if you maybe were someone who wasn't starting your retirement savings, right away in your 20s or 30s, these catch-up contributions can be a good option for you. So most retirement savings plans have some sort of annual limit that you're allowed to contribute every year. So your 401k, your Roth IRAs, they all have kind of max amounts that you can put in every year. What these catch-up contributions are is once you hit age 50, those limits actually change and are a little bit higher for you. So it kind of allows you that, hey, if you weren't saving earlier on in your life, you've got a chance now to kind of be putting in more every year to kind of catch up on your retirement planning. The thing about that is you're only able to, max out those amounts if you've got the funding to do that.
Right.
So that really is kind of where we say, hey, these are available for you, but we do recommend saving earlier if an option.
This is an option, but no, that's the catch-up contributions. That's a good thing for people to know. If say you're watching this and you're past the point, well, I should have saved when I was 20, but you didn't. It's kind of cool that they have those kind of opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. There's some options there for you.
Now, this may seem like a a pretty self-explanatory question, but why is it so important to work with a financial advisor or a CPA when creating a retirement plan? And I say it may sound like, to me, yeah, of course, somebody who knows what they're talking about. But for anyone else that may be out there, why is it important to work with a financial advisor or CPA in this situation?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all this advice that I'm kind of giving today. It's more general in nature. Everyone has such specific to them financial situations, and so we really want to make sure that you're planning for the situation that makes sense for you. You're going to get lots of advice from friends, neighbors about, hey, I did this and this worked great for me, but your personal situation might not be the same as that person. So that's kind of where we always recommend working with an expert who really knows the ins and outs, is going to be able to help you maximize your money and really, set yourself up on a good retirement plan.
Kind of going off of that and off of, I guess, our whole segment here, how does this financial literacy aspect and, really understanding your finances really fit into retirement planning?
Yeah, so, last week when we talked about financial literacy, I kind of gave the definition of it's having the knowledge and the skills to back up some of the financial choices that you're making. And so that really plays into this whole idea of retirement is you want to have the knowledge going in. To make sure that you're on a good plan. So once you get to retirement, you're going to hopefully be all set, ready to go.
Yeah.
And so just this idea of financial literacy, educating yourself early on in life so that you're not suddenly 5 years out from retirement and realizing that, hey, I didn't know what I was doing, and so I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. Maybe I haven't been saving, haven't been planning for retirement, and now I'm in a spot where I might be in a little bit of trouble. Might not be able to retire when I thought I was going to be able to, maybe don't have the funds to sustain me throughout the rest of my life. And so that's really why just this idea of financial literacy is so important. We want you spending the time really educating yourself, looking at all the options that are available to you early on, so that you've got that knowledge and that skill set to back up the choices that you're making.
Gotcha. Perfect, Rachel. I got one more question for you before we go and get you out of here. Rachel Grossman from Bank of North Dakota joining us to talk about financial literacy, as we'll be doing every Friday on Valley News Now through the month of October. We obviously just devoted an entire segment of this to retirement. How often does this come up, and how often do you just find people being concerned with retirement issues, or being concerned, have I been saving enough? How can I make up for any lost saving there? Just how much of a concern do you see in, maybe even the daily life here with people in their retirements?
Yeah, I would say it's huge, and I think it's a concern that's growing for a lot of people. Just kind of realizing that, hey, I might not have been saving as much as I should have been, and now I'm worried about what my life is going to be like in retirement. Will I be able to retire when I want to? Am I going to still be having to work a part-time job? Just what is that situation going to look like? And so, definitely a concern for a lot of people. And so that's just where, we at Bank of North Dakota, with our Smart With My Money program, we're really here to just try and help with that education and knowledge to get people on a path for success.
And some people just want to work forever. So
if that's you, good for you.
If that's you, thank you for tuning in, but this wasn't for you. We'll see you next week maybe. But Rachel, thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely.
Once again, I appreciate it. We'll see you next week.
Of course.
Thank you for joining us here on this Valley News Now digital update. We're going to have a lot more for you throughout the day, so be sure to stay tuned right here and to our newscast coming up tonight. But for now, for Valley News Now, I'm Devin Fry.